Hey guys, it's Deen. It isn't uncommon for a medium to need to go through one or two iterations to accomplish the goals they set out to achieve. It often takes some experimentation in order to find its identity. Regardless of whether or not a first release is considered good by the masses, the artist, creator, designer, etc. is able to take data from the previous releases and tweak it in a manner they feel better fits their vision. And there is no exception to this when it comes to the video game industry. Opinions are obviously subjective and vary from person to person, but I'd argue that Super Mario Bros. 3 is when Nintendo started finding its identity for their mascot and actualizing their vision. And I'm not sure where we currently sit on the nostalgia cycle, but I remember back when we jumped from Halo to Halo 2, we saw a game that completely improved on almost every aspect of an original we loved. Likewise, Sonic 2 was the first time Sega really got the Hedgehog's game right. The Mario Party series definitely follows this trend. Whereupon in the first game it seemed Hudson Soft was throwing many different ideas onto a wall to see what sticks. In their first sequel, they managed to find a rhythm that completely builds off the first entry. And they did it in style. I mean, just look at these outfits, how could you not be impressed? I know it's been stated a million times, but I'm surprised the series has yet to revisit the costume idea. Each board becomes so much more memorable when you look at your favorite character dressed up for the event. It's a silly concept, but just look at how much people enjoyed Mario's costumes in Mario Odyssey. I really hope the Party series comes back to this. Every character wears 6 different outfits in Mario Party 2, one for each board, which is 2 less than the first game released. But I think in Mario Party 2 they figured out how to make the boards more enjoyable for the most part. If you watched my last video, you'll know I mentioned that there were only 5 boards in Mario Party 1 I'd consider worth playing. If you didn't watch my last video, I recommend checking it out. I'd say Mario Party 2 also has 5 boards I'd enjoy playing. When you consider that they only had 6 boards in this title, I think that's a testament to just how much better the team got at designing their boards. But before I talk about the boards, I think it's important to talk about what changes were made regarding the board play in this game. You still start with 10 coins, stars still cost 20 coins, blue spaces are 3 coins, red spaces minus 3 coins, happening spaces trigger a board specific event, chance time spaces are still around, Bowser spaces trigger Bowser Roulette, and passing by Boo allows you to steal coins or a star from another player. On the final 5 turns, blue and red spaces double in value and a prediction will be made on who will win the game. Only this time the character that's predicted to win will receive 10 coins. Those aspects all stayed the same. What was removed from the game was the mushroom space, the single player minigame space, and Bowser and Koopa are no longer characters on the board you can pass. The game also got rid of the plus, minus, speed, and slow blocks that you could turn on, and the event block completely changed. In Mario Party 1, landing on an event block would randomly summon Boo, Bowser, or Koopa. Here, however, landing on an event block will award you with either some coins or a star for free. It adds a completely new twist to the game and is sure to create some crazy moments during playthroughs that can completely turn a game on its head. Taking Bowser's place on the board is Baby Bowser. Whenever the star is moved to a new location, Baby Bowser takes up the space of the old star, and if you pass him, you'll be forced to pay him 5 coins, which is significantly less than the penalty you'd have to pay Bowser in Mario Party 1. What makes this pretty fun though is if you're racing an opponent towards the star and you manage to grab it, they'll be stuck with passing by Baby Bowser as a result and not only miss out on a star but also lose 5 coins. In Mario Party 1, you'd pass by Koopa at the end of each lap of a board and he'd give you 10 coins. This time, however, the game has made him manager of the bank spaces, and the banks are generally at the start and somewhere in the middle of each board to make sure they get passed frequently. Every time a player passes the bank, they're required to deposit 5 coins. Should any player manage to land on the bank spaces, they'll get to withdraw all of the coins that have been deposited throughout the game, which can sometimes add up to quite a bit. The rest of the emissions from Mario Party 1 can all be grouped into the new item space that can be found on the board. The item space replaces the single player minigame space. The player that lands on it gets to play a board specific minigame where the reward is an item. These items replace the mushroom space and the item blocks from the first game. Items can either be purchased at an item shop or won through the item minigame that I just mentioned. Every player can only carry 1 item, however, and you can't discard it. It has to be used. Otherwise, landing on an item space or passing the item shop will lead to nothing happening. The items include a mushroom and golden mushroom, which allow the player to roll 1 and 2 extra dice during the turn they use the item. There's also a skeleton key item that can be used to unlock various doors throughout the map. These doors close behind you when you pass, so a player must have a skeleton key every time they want to go through the door. The doors tend to lead to shortcuts through the map or take you to a Boo, chance time, item space, or sometimes even towards a star. So having a skeleton key on hand can be very crucial for victory. The issue, however, is when you're holding a skeleton key, you can't use any other item. And since you can't get rid of an item without using it, you'll basically be unable to use any items until you get rid of the key. Luckily, when you do pass a locked door, you can use a skeleton key to unlock it and just keep going on your path without going through the door. The door will still lock back up at the end of your turn, so nobody will be able to benefit, but it'll free up your item slot for another item. Take caution though, because in my experience, whenever you dispose a skeleton key, the next turn is when you realize you're going to need it. The next item is a Plunder Chest, which will randomly select one of your opponents and steal their item. Then there's the Dueling Glove. Duels are 1v1 board-specific minigames that the challenging player can choose how many coins they'd like to gamble. The general rule is the maximum you can bet is the amount the player with less coins has. There are two ways to challenge another player to a duel. The first is a Dueling Glove item, so if there's a player with a lot of coins that you think you can best in a minigame, get yourself a glove. The second way to trigger the duels is landing on a space occupied by another player during the final 5 turns. In both cases, the player whose turn it is gets to decide how many coins to wager. The next item is the Warp Block, which is better than its Mario Party 1 iteration in that not only do you have control over when you'd like to use it, but after it switches your location with another random player, you still get to go for a dice roll. Those were two very important changes in my opinion that changed the Warp Block from being a self-punishing nuance a majority of the time, to actually being a decent item that's worth gambling with. The next item is the Magic Lamp, which summons one of my favorite characters and cutscenes in gaming. It costs 30 coins and takes you straight to the star, which is huge, but also expensive since you have to spend another 20 coins on the star. Luckily, you don't have to use the item right away, so after you spend the 30 coins, you can build your coin count back up over the next few turns until you have 20 coins for the star. Just be wary of anyone holding a Plunder Chest. I would hate to be the person who bought someone else a Magic Lamp. The catch with all of these items is they won't always be available when you pass an item shop. The higher the turn number and the lower your ranking is, the better item selection available to purchase from the shop. So you just have to hope you pass the item shop at an opportune moment. There are, however, 3 items that can be purchased through the shop and can only be won through the item minigame. The first one is the Boo Bell, which summons Boo. Great item, pretty self-explanatory though. Keep in mind in this game stealing coins is no longer free, you have to actually pay 5 coins to steal coins from another player. I don't like it since it basically lowers the number of coins that you could potentially walk away with, but it also prices out players with a low coin count from even being able to steal, which I do like. It's so cruel that it almost feels like it should have been like that in Mario Party 1 since that game is notorious for punishing losers. The second item that can only be won through minigames is a Bowser suit, which turns you into a Bowser when used. You'll roll your dice block, and any player you pass in that run will be forced to fork over 20 coins to you. And the final item is the Bowser Bomb. When a player gets the Bowser Bomb item in the minigame, which is usually done on accident, at the end of the 4th player's turn, it'll automatically be triggered and cause Baby Bowser to turn into Bowser himself. Bowser will then roll 3 dice blocks and any player he passes will lose all of their coins. I'd actually recommend going for this item during the item minigame if you're short on coins and you know that your opponents are fairly close to Baby Bowser, but that's probably why my friends hate me. Moving back to the board spaces. The final new space available in Mario Party 2 is the Battle minigame space, which actually triggers a whole new minigame category, the Battle minigame. When a Battle minigame is triggered, the game will require each player to wager between 10, 20, 30, or 50 coins. Generally, the later on in the game, the higher the wager. A battle minigame is basically a 4-player minigame, but it'll actually rank you from 1st to 4th. Since all players made an initial wager, there could potentially be a ton of coins on the line. When the minigame is done, 1st place gets 70% of the coins, and 2nd place gets 30%, while 3rd and 4th place get to hang their heads in shame. In the event of a tie, the coins will be split 50-50, or 1/3 each, or 25% each, depending on how many people are tied. If there's a tie for 2nd place, the 30% will be split between the 2 or 3 players that tied. There are a variety of battle minigames that I'll go through when I discuss the minigames, but 2 of them are completely luck-based, and man doesn't hurt to lose a battle minigame during a game of chance, but that's Mario Party for you. So, I think that covers everything new mechanically in Mario Party 2. Bowser Roulette is for the most part the same as the first game. The roulette will either punish you or another player way more than it should, or if you're lucky completely let you go. Chance time is also perfect in Mario Party 2, just as it was in Mario Party 1, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Happening spaces still yield you a bonus star if you've landed on them more than any other player throughout the game, so make sure you keep a mental tab of who's landed on them most and try to intentionally land on it yourself depending on the circumstances. The other 2 bonus stars are also the same. The minigame star is fixed in this game since it only takes into consideration the coins won in standard minigames. I mentioned before that in the first Mario Party, one of the biggest drawbacks was single-player minigames used to count towards the minigame star, which meant you could win the bonus star by getting lucky with single-player minigames, and I really didn't like that. So I'm glad this is not an issue anymore. Obviously, since there's no single-player minigames, but they don't count the duel or battle minigames towards the total, and that makes me happy. The next bonus star is identical to its iteration in Mario Party 1, and that's the Coin Star, which is awarded to whichever player held the greatest number of coins at any one point during the game. This bonus star brings out a frugal side to me I didn't know existed. I find myself skipping item stores and avoiding board events unless I know I'm comfortably in the lead for this bonus star. I like that it awards you the bonus star for the most you held at any one point, meaning if you had 81 coins on turn 10 and by the end of the game you have 0, you could still win the star if no other player managed to get their counter to say 81 at any point during the game. There are also some fun circumstances that it could occur if you keep this bonus star in mind during regular play. Let's say it's the final turn and you're passing by Boo. You could pay 50 coins and steal a star from one player. Or, if you happen to be only a few coins behind the amount you need for a minigame star, you could opt to steal coins to put your counter up and guarantee yourself a star while gaining coins instead. Essentially, you'd be stealing a star from the player that had the highest coin count at any point in time though, so it's very situational. Okay, I think it's time to actually play Mario Party. Pick your character, same roster as last time, Mario, Luigi, Yoshi, Peach, DK, and Wario. Pick the number of turns, 20, 35, or 50. And hit A again to confirm that you want bonus stars turned on. Because I imagine the only people that play with bonus stars turned off are the kind of people that enjoy eating a salad without any dressing. I kid, but seriously, bonus stars are part of the fun, and the game knows this because it'll automatically turn off the random event block that could pop up if you turn the bonus stars off. It's basically saying, okay, I got it, you're no fun at parties, we'll turn everything enticing off, but it is weird that those two options are tied together. Anyway, let's run to the boards now and throw our costumes on. We'll start with Pirate Land. Basically, they took Yoshi's Tropical Island from the first game and made it more eventful. Well, kind of. So there's 3 islands, one on the right, one in the top left, and one in the bottom left. The right island connects to the top left island via 2 one-way bridges. The bridges aren't guarded by thwomps this time, however, instead they have happening spaces you can land on. If a player lands on the happening spaces, then the game will send them and any other player on those bridges back to the start, which could be useful if you need to go back to the start or are trying to screw over your opponent or even just trying to win the happening star. The island on the top left is also connected to the island on the bottom via another double bridge. Albeit this bridge is a bit shorter, with happening spaces on it. The same rules apply, only this time sending you back to the beginning is a much further distance. You'll notice there are 2 thwomps on this map and they behave identically to how they did in the last game. You can pass them by paying as many coins as you'd like, and the next player pays at minimum whatever you did plus 1. The difference here though is that the thwomps won't trap you in the island if you can't afford to pass them. The first thwomp is between the first and second island and will allow you to take the bridge right back to the first island. The second block is between the second and third island and allows you to bypass the third island. It's nice that the thwomps can no longer be used to completely trap a player in one location like they could in Yoshi's Tropical Island, but you can still price your opponents out of taking shortcuts, which is neat. There's a gate in the top left island that a skeleton key will open and allow you to avoid both thwomps if you're desperate. But in my experience it's seldom used unless someone really needs to get rid of a skeleton key or if a player really wants to spend a ton of their coins on thwomps to price everyone out. I think the board could have benefited with an item shop, Boo, or even a chance time space hidden behind this gate. Instead they threw a Bowser space in there, and considering there's another Bowser space 5 moves after it, I would generally avoid this route. The other gate is located on the first island right before the bridge and allows you to use the key to stay on the island on the right, plus gives you access to a chance time space. I like this gate a lot more because it's also technically a shortcut to get you to Boo. Aside from that, there are 2 spaces on the right island and the bottom left island that are connected via this shark. For whatever reason they're not happening spaces, but you are required to travel between the islands if you land on either of these 2 spaces. I'd say this is a good map. It's not that large, no crazy gimmicks, easily understandable, and I love the pirate costumes. It's not my favorite, but that's only because the next map is. Western Land is a behemoth of a map. I think it's one of the largest ones in the series. What's cool about it though is it's still a map you can completely traverse during a 20-turn game because of its good design. The board is a giant circle with shortcut webs all throughout the middle of it. Since the board is so big it contains 2 Boos, so there's still plenty of chances to steal. There are 3 train stations opposite to each other on the outside of the map. If you step on a happening space, the train will move forward to the next station, and anybody in the way will be sent all the way back to the beginning of the map, which again, depending on circumstances, is not always a punishment. If you happen to pass by a train station while the train is parked there, you can pay 5 coins to take a ride on the train to the next station. The catch here is that you basically have to flip a coin which decides if the train moves back 1 station or forward 1 station. That 50-50 dice is basically my only critique of this board, but I can excuse it because surprisingly it's pretty rare to actually get to the train during a 20-turn game in the first place. It might only happen once or twice since the happening space keeps moving it around the board. Plus, ending up reversing on the train could technically be better than going forward, so I guess I'm okay with the 5 coin risk it provides. You could always just skip it if you don't want the chance of moving to the opposite direction. In the top left corner of the map, you can pass by this wiggler that will offer you a chance to pay 20 coins for a Hootenanny, which will force all the characters around the map to move to your location. This could definitely be used as a useful strategy depending on where everyone is in relation to the star. Honestly, there's not much else to say about this board. It's fun, I like it. Similar to DK's Jungle Adventure in Mario Party 1, I'd say this is one of those boards that embodies what a general Mario Party board represents. But honestly, in Mario Party 2, you can say the same of at least 3, if not 4 or even 5 of the boards. But Western Land usually automatically jumps into my mind when someone says Mario Party because of the cover art. Alright, so we're 2 for 2 on boards. Both super enjoyable. The third board is Spaceland. Man, can I just take a second to appreciate how good Mario Party 2 is? Specifically, these 3 boards are 3 of my absolute favorites in the series. I think when I'm done with this retrospective series, I might actually have to make a board tier list and see which game has the most boards I enjoy. Anyway, Spaceland has 2 main gimmicks. The map is a large square with 4 corners providing an optional route towards the middle. Or you can spend your time circling the board on the outside. If you do take a route towards the middle, however, you'll get to the center and choose one of the 4 cardinal directions to travel out of the center. The middle spot initially has a 5 on it and counts down towards 0 every time someone lands on it. When the timer eventually hits 0, a Bowser cannon fires from the northeast to the southwest, and any player along that route that gets hit will lose all of their coins. So you want to be very careful of when you decide to use that specific route. And of course, every now and then a star spawns on that route. Along the outside of the map, you travel clockwise. If someone steps on a happening space, which only appear on the top and bottom edges of the map, the police will chase them and whoever else is in their way counterclockwise towards the nearest corner of the map. There are 2 stations that you can pass and pay 5 coins that will make it so that the next time someone steps on the happening space, they and whoever else is in the way will be chased back 2 corners instead of 1. Also, there are 2 gates in this map. Of the 4 corners that take you towards the center, the top left corner requires a gate. It also passes by Boo, so it's a good gate to take. Of the 4 routes that exit you from the center, the right one requires a gate. Otherwise, you keep cycling through these 5 spaces and potentially blast yourself. The downside to this exit is that it causes you to skip Boo, but it can still be a pretty useful route depending on where the star is, or if you're trying to run down the counter for Bowser's Cannon. All in all, a solid map and very enjoyable. So those first 3 maps were definitely my favorites. I probably should have spaced it out so I don't get all the best ones out of the way immediately, but to be fair, of the final 3, 2 of them are still maps I enjoy enough to come back to. In fact, the only map that tends to be skipped during our Mario Party 2 playthroughs is Mysteryland. I have issues with this board style. The whole design of having different board islands that are for the most part randomly traveled between via happening spaces, it's very similar to Wario's Battle Canyon in Mario Party 1, and I never enjoyed playing that board either. In Mysteryland, when you land on a happening space, it'll take you to the next island over in a clockwise direction. You can also pay up a bomb 10 coins and he'll usually move you to the island opposite of you. There's also a Shy Guy in this map you can pay 5 coins to, and he'll put a 1 through 3 dice curse on a player of your choice. Aside from that, the skeleton key will let you travel between some of the islands through the middle. The connection through the middle of the 4 islands is what makes this board a bit more enjoyable than Wario's Battle Canyon for me. I honestly don't have much else to say. This board is kind of lame in my opinion. My guess is that if you enjoyed Wario's Battle Canyon, you might enjoy this one too. Luckily, Horrorland is fun. The gimmick here is the day and night cycle on the board. Every 2 turns, the board will switch from day to night and then back again. There are also a couple of locations you can pass to pay 10 coins to change to day or night. Or you can always try and land on a happening space to change the day to night as well. Making their Mario Party debut on the board are the giant eyeballs from Mario 64. You can pay the giant eyeballs to move you across the map, and since the map is fairly large and has routes going in different directions, this could actually be very useful. There are 5 Boos on this map. During the daytime, there are 2 available and one of them is hidden behind a skeleton key. During the nighttime, there are 3 available, 2 of them are on the main path, and a Big Boo hidden behind a locked door in the top right corner. If you're able to get to Big Boo and take advantage of it, you'll likely end up winning the game. Big Boo offers you the chance to pay 15 coins and steal coins from all 3 players at once, or you can pay 150 coins and steal a star from each player. I never got Big Boo footage for this playthrough, and I'd say on the rare occasion that I'm playing this map and someone does actually make it over to him, they usually just end up paying 15 coins and stealing coins from everybody. The stars really need to align for you to take full advantage of him. Pun intended. You need to have 150 coins, a skeleton key, all 3 of your opponents need to have a star, and it needs to be nighttime. If every one of those boxes is checked, then Big Boo can realistically win you the game or at least put you in a much better position to. And finally, there are 3 Womps that make a return from Mario Party 1. They stand at 3 junctions throughout the map. They move back and forth between which side of the junction they block every time they pass. If a player chooses, they can pay 5 coins and the Womp will move out of their way and let them pass in the direction they're blocking. The catch is that at night, the Womps turn into solid walls that can't be passed at all. I'd say this map does difficulty right. I haven't really discussed board difficulties throughout this, or the last episode even, and it's because the whole board difficulty thing isn't really defined properly by the games. But this board definitely feels like it's not meant for newcomers. It still feels like a proper Mario Party board, it just might require a bit more planning and luck to strategize accordingly. The final board, Bowserland, is unlocked after playing the first 5 boards at least once. Honestly, my only real complaint with this board is that the characters aren't wearing any costumes. I was enjoying their outfits on the other maps. But that doesn't make the board boring by any means. Every 5 turns, a Bowser parade begins. The route starts at the top of the board every time and follows a path towards the start of the map. The path can be changed every time a player passes by a footprint platform though, so it's important to keep track of where everyone is and which turn you're on whenever you pass one. If the parade manages to reach a player, it will chase the player back to the start of the board and steal 2 coins away from them for every space they pass. The parade will not run unless it's guaranteed to pass a player though, so do your best to stay out of the path. Since this is a Bowser map, there have to be some punishing gimmicks though. Passing by the item shop will result in Baby Bowser forcing you to buy an item of his choice whether you like it or not. There are 2 types of happening spaces too. One of the types are these ones next to the warp pipes, which will transport you to another warp pipe. The other ones exist by this blooper where if you land on them, you're forced to enter his little circle, and you don't get to exit again until you land on the happening spaces on the inside the circle. The star does spawn in here sometimes, so that's usually a difficult star to chase. The last big change on this board is the bank space. It works in the opposite way. Every time you pass it, the bank will give you a 5 coin loan. When a player eventually does land on the bank space, they'll have to pay the entire loan back to the bank. If they can't afford it, then they'll get away with just having to give them all of their coins instead. I actually had a very stereotypical Mario Party experience on this board. Have you ever seen that Mario Kart clip where a player was comfortably in first and ended up getting demolished by 4 or 5 different items? Well, think that, but with Mario Party 2. With 5 turns remaining, I was comfortably in first with 3 stars and a decent number of coins on hand, and not too far away from the star. A combination of losing a duel minigame and getting robbed by Boo in the 4th last turn took me down to 5 coins, where I sat 2 spaces away from the bank space. If I rolled greater than a 2, I'd receive 5 coins and pass the bank. If I rolled a 2, I'd have landed on the bank space and lost my 5 coins, which is fine. Instead, I rolled a 1 and received 6 coins and was 1 move away from the bank space going to the next minigame. I lost at Honeycomb Havoc, which isn't a 100% luck-based game, but there is a lot of luck to it at times. The next player managed to get to the star ahead of me with a good roll and managed to cap off their turn by landing on a battle minigame. I placed 3rd place in Crazy Cutters, 3 points off of 1st and only 1 point off of 2nd. Keep in mind that 2nd place is rewarded, but instead I walked away with 0 coins. The stupid game didn't even give me the 1 extra coin, because of course it didn't. Well, when it was my turn again, I managed to roll another stupid 1 and land on the bank space, and something happened that I only ever heard rumors about, but never actually saw occur in person. He took my frickin' star! I was supposed to have a 2-star lead with 4 turns to go, but instead I was level on stars with 2 players and had less coins than both of them. And guess what? During the last 3 turns, I lost my happening star lead and my coin star lead because of the battle minigames, so yeah, I got wrecked. I wanted to launch my controller across the room, but I loved every second of it though. 10 out of 10, I'd recommend again. Moments like that are what make Mario Party great though. Thankfully, this was the one map I was playing with only CPUs to gather footage for this review, so nobody around me could actually laugh at my pain. The only remaining aspect of this map worth mentioning is that there's a star space in the bottom left corner, and the only way to access this is with a skeleton key. So this map more than others could potentially find you racing for a skeleton key at certain points. Alright, I think it's finally time to jump over and talk about the minigames. Every map has a designated item minigame and duel minigame. They range in difficulty. Coffin Congestion and Roll Out the Barrels are probably the easiest. Mallet Go Round will usually be easy enough but could have the occasional miss swing. Hammer Slammer and Give Me a Break are a bit trickier until you figure out the sweet spots, and Bowser Slots is the hardest one to time. It's a fine lineup of minigames, but I kinda wish they weren't board specific. But they add enough of a curve to the gameplay to make it just a tad bit more exciting than simply receiving a free item of your choice. Similar to the single player minigames of the first game, the fun happens when the other 3 players try and psych out the player trying to win the item. The duel minigames, however, are all enjoyable and different enough so that they don't feel redundant. They range in how you can defeat your opponent, whether it's timing a button press or following on-screen prompts. The Bowserland duel minigame is entirely luck-based, though, since it's basically a game of rock, paper, scissors. I'm okay with having random luck-based minigames for both the duel and item minigames. I just wish they weren't both tied to Bowserland, since it really makes the board feel like it contains a bit more luck than it should. So while the board-specific minigames were neat in that each one fits the theme, I would have preferred them all to be available on a roulette wheel regardless of which map you're on. The way to balance the skill variants in minigames is to throw in a few luck-based ones in there, but it should be left entirely up to chance as to when they can be drawn, otherwise the minigame aspect starts favoring luck a bit more than it does skill. Which leads me to the battle minigames. These are a great addition in my opinion. They can really throw a game on its head and have a lot on the line. There has to be a way to balance them though to make sure the better minigame players aren't always the ones cashing in on the reward, especially since later on in the game they could be worth well over 100 coins for the winner, and the 3rd and 4th place players could be left with 0 coins. So first off, a player needs to land on the battle minigame space to even open up the possibility of one occurring. If a player is really good at minigames, they shouldn't be too worried about that space, right? Since it's a guaranteed win? Well, not exactly. 6 of the minigames can technically be mastered, but they still are designed well enough that the best player won't always win, even though it'll give the more skilled player a better shot. However, the remaining 2 minigames are 100% luck-based, which means there's a 25% chance that all of the coins being gambled on during a battle minigame are completely up to chance. I think that just enough stars have to align for a game-changing scenario to occur through one of these games, but it's not totally uncommon. Facelift, Crazy Cutters, Bumper Balloon Cars, and Haba Bomb are 4 of my favorite minigames in this game, while Grab Bag and Raking Them In are good enough. Day at the Races I don't like as much though because it seems like whoever goes first and picks Boo tends to be the likeliest person to win. Not always, but often enough. I think if it was a bit more balanced and not as exploitable, then this minigame would be much more fun, because the race itself is actually enjoyable given what's on the line, especially the little slow motion photo finish. But Day at the Races pales in comparison to what I would consider one of the franchise's most notorious minigames. Bowser's Big Blast probably has led to the most memorable Mario Party moments, second only to Chance Time. I know it's been talked about to death in other Mario Party videos, so I won't dwell too long, but I'll say that even though it's a luck-based game, I'm okay with it being included in the battle minigame roulette since I think Mario Party 2 does a very good job balancing luck and skill. So if you're unlucky enough to lose the game as a result of someone landing on this minigame late on, it probably balances out something lucky that happened to you early on in the game. You've probably noticed I mentioned a few games that were also in the original Mario Party so far. That's because there were 21 minigames to make a return from the previous Mario Party. Most of them have received some kind of change, whether it's how they're scored or balanced, and I'd argue that all of the returning minigames are either just as good or better than the original counterpart. For example, Platform Pearl managed to balance out the routes so that it no longer strongly favors a player's starting position. In fact, all of the 4-player minigames seem to be much more balanced. The only one that you could maybe make a case for being luck-based is Honeycomb Havoc, since your starting point could matter, but even then, it's an enjoyable enough minigame and the closest 4-player minigame we have to a luck-based one. It's a solid lineup, and I'd argue all of them are enjoyable and different enough from one another so they don't feel stale. Likewise with the 2v2 minigames. I have good things to say about all of them. They're all balanced and don't require any luck, and they don't feel too repetitive. There are 1 or 2 of them that do feel weird to control though, but that's more of a product of its time in the hardware. And it's a crutch that both teams face, so it's okay. If I had to pick one that I don't really enjoy, it's Destruction Duet. It basically just turns into a button masher, but even then it feels sloppy. But honestly, this is more of a nitpick than anything else, probably because I always win button mashers and sometimes screw this one up. At this point into my video, I figured I'd start talking about how balanced the 1 vs 3 minigames are, although I think Mario Party 2 definitely does a better job at balancing them than Mario Party 1 did. It's always hard to balance 1 vs 3s, just because of their nature, so I'm not surprised. There are 11 of them. Bowl Over, Crane Game, Bob-omb Barrage, Look Away, Filet Relay, and Quicksand Cache I'd argue are almost completely balanced and award players skill. So right off the bat, 6 of them are a success, which is already better than what they managed in the first game. You can probably consider Move to the Music a success too for the most part. I don't know what it is about this game, but every time I've played this minigame over the past 20 years, someone complains about the timing of the button presses and it causes the team of 3 to lose. It seems like this should be a guaranteed win for the team of 3, but I think the timing required for the 3 players to press the button actually balances it out. I expect that was unintentional though, but whatever, if it works, it works. Arch Rival favors the 1, at least with my group of friends. The only time the 1 might lose is if they decide to go after the extra coins first, but even then they usually still win. Rainbow Run is the same as Tightrope Treachery from the first game. They made the controls a little easier for the team of 3, and I think when you're playing against a CPU, it is balanced, but with human-controlled players this minigame still completely favors the 1. Actually, I can say the same about Shock Drop or Roll and Lights Out. The 1 almost always wins. The only time I've seen the 3 win is in Shock Drop or Roll if the team of 3 has a CPU on hard, and the only time I've seen the 3 win in Lights Out is if the 1 is a CPU. so 7 of these 1v3s are balanced out and 4 of them favor the 1. But this is an anecdotal sample based off my experience with the people I'm playing with, and although I have a fairly gaming diverse group of people I play with, it might not be an actual accurate representation of how balanced these minigames are. At the very least, those 4 minigames are almost completely balanced if you're playing Mario Party 2 with 1 or 2 CPUs. I guess 3 CPUs too. But if you're playing Mario Party alone, then I'm sorry. But dang, that's Mario Party 2. Something I've come to realize in my various circles is that everyone has their Mario Party. I'd wager that a majority of the time it's because it's simply the one they grew up with. Because obviously they'll argue for hours as to why the game they put 300 hours into is better than the one they played at a sleepover one time. But what I like about the Mario Party series is I tend to find a large variance into what people consider to be their favorite one. Sure, there are a few that tend to get mentioned more than others, and hardcore Mario Partiers will share their tier lists and they often overlap, but it's not uncommon to hear a defender for each and every title. Perhaps that's what happens when you release so many sequels. Or perhaps Mario Party is just fun enough that any of them can be enjoyed. Who knows? What I do know is that Mario Party 2 is my Mario Party. It's the one I grew up with, the one I have the most memories of, the one that comes to mind whenever I think about earlier Mario Parties, all of that. It may not be the best Mario Party title, but it's one I hold close to my heart just because it's created the most memories for me. And when you place it side by side with the first Mario Party, it's a no-brainer that this one is a better all-around game. The first Mario Party is still extremely fun to go back to, but that's only because it's way more sadistic, so you're guaranteeing way more of those stereotypical Mario Party moments that everyone loves. And there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, I think I'll be playing it a lot more when I have friends over that are more experienced gamers and super competitive because I know we'll have a lot more fun with that entry than other ones. But the beauty of Mario Party 2 is that it still has all of those stereotypical moments, they just do a much better job at trickling them over a more solid game. While I don't necessarily think the 5 boards I like from 2 blow the 5 that I like from 1 out of the water, at the very least I might say they're tied, and the tiebreaker for me would be the fact that the characters are wearing these great costumes. Mario Party 1 is played when you want to laugh at your friends. Mario Party 2 is played when you want an all-around excellent Mario Party experience. I'm working on my Mario Party 3 video, and it should be out soon, so we'll see how that holds up in comparison. Make sure you like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can be notified when my Mario Party 3 retrospective drops. Thanks for watching. Deen out.